Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show. And I am Deborah Prinzing, and I'm so excited to have today as my guest Toni Reale of Roadside Blooms in North Charleston, South Carolina. Hi, Toni.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
I'm so glad we got this planned. Just by way of background, Toni was a guest on the Slow Flowers podcast in 2019 when she was one of the designers for our botanical couture for American Flowers Week with another designer. And that was so beautiful, Toni. And thanks so much for creating something that was unforgettable and all botanical. I loved it.
Thank you.
But
We did too. Laura and I had a great time as well as my friend Giovanni.
yeah. Yes, it was great. Maybe we'll put a link to that so people can see what you
Oh yeah,
created.
that'd be great.
But we've been tracking our members who have retail flower shops all year, and there's been a lot of activity. And you're one of the poster children for that because you expanded to a new location. And we were just chatting before we started recording. There's this climate of um, oh, brick and mortar flower shops are suffering or are closing. And I feel like you're the counter trend. And a lot of Slow Flowers members are either opening new retail shops, maybe associated with their farms, or they already have one shop and they're opening a second one, or they're expanding like you. So and we touched on this in the forecast, the 2024 Slow Flowers Floral Insights and the Industry Forecast. And so all year, I'm going to try to have maybe once a month visit a retail shop and talk about how they're doing it. And I feel like you've got a lot of secrets to share. So I want to thank you, first of all, for getting on with me the very first week of the year when nobody has time. Toni, you've already had a workshop this week, I saw at Roadside
We
Blooms.
did.
It's
Yes.
crazy. Tell me about that. How did that go?
It was wonderful. I'm in this new space where we actually have some space to host workshops, and we are very much embedded in our community, which I think is one of the secret sauces of success,
Yeah.
is knowing your neighbors and knowing what people are looking for. We are so proud that we've created a really safe, loving space. We get told all of the time that people they just feel so much better after coming in.
Mm, mm.
And
So you're
so,
kind of like a destination, maybe not just for shopping, but for like self fulfillment. I mean, and just making
yeah,
yourself feel better. Yeah. Mental health.
yeah, it's interesting. And I don't think any of us were expecting it. I mean, that's what we put out there. So that's what we're receiving, which is great. But that kind of space we're trying to create is emulated through the workshops we've been able to have, especially when wedding season's a little bit slower. So we had a flora mandala and meditation class, and this is our third time we've been hosting it. And the upfront costs of doing something like this is pretty minimal on our end.
Hmm.
It's myself and a staff person that stay, yes, after
Okay.
hours, so you can
Hmm.
get in the mood.
Yeah.
And then paying a friend who is really well known in our community, who has leads people through the meditation part. And so we had the meditation, and she really grounded us. And then we had prepared baskets with different floral components. And the idea is for it to be a sensorial experience. So we had things like geranium and mint and lavender for
Mm.
the scent, and straw flower, which is I love that sound, that little crunchy sound.
Yeah. So tactile.
Yes, and a bunch of different things. And so after the meditation, we rolled out some craft paper for each person, and in their little quiet selves, through the intention that they set, they created, some artwork with their petals. And the idea was to roll it up and either send it off at home or recreate a new one. And
I love
so
it.
it's always so powerful every time we do it. Everyone comes at different points when they finally have a time to settle and enjoy, natural elements. So things come up,
It's
and
just so perfect for the beginning of a new year too. And I know you're doing something else sort of like that next week, another interactive sort of mindfulness workshops. So
Mhm.
I'll put those links on our show notes so people can see the kind of workshops that happen at Roadside Blooms. I got off on that tangent, but I just had to ask you about it because it looked like such a perfect, just a perfect kind of way to start a new year. And for you, the holidays are probably a blur, and then you have to clear out the store and get rid of any kind of holiday stuff and start
Mhm.
fresh. So um, I want to talk about that now. Tony's
Great.
filmed a couple little video clips for us, so we're going to share those.
So we'll walk in the front doors. We have tons of plants and flowers inside, pots. We created our own information signs that give a little bit about the natural history of the plants, care guides, etc. This is one of our favorite spots here. Old record player, some propagation stations. We sell a lot of incense. One way that we have been trying to branch out and create revenue streams is we've teamed up with somebody who makes salts. And so this is a side brand of Roadside Blooms called Earthbound Alchemy, where we are really passionate about people understanding how crystals form and the metaphysical properties. So the science and the mysticism of crystals. So we also carry a lot of crystals. People love to purchase those. Books, the Evolution of Life on Earth poster, some of my favorite fossils. T-shirts, products. This is our cash wrap. We actually even are on DoorDash, and so this is a DoorDash arrangement going out today. People love mugs and stickers. We sell local elderberry brands and honey brands. This is our bouquet bar. All American and locally grown flowers. Cards. Then we have some seeds and some gardening supplies. Here's some of my staff, Bailey and Kelsey, working to get some arrangements out today and some products put back on the shelves. And then this is our cooler. We use a CoolBot. So if folks have not been on the CoolBot train yet, it saves thousands of dollars rather than building in a walk-in cooler. And that's the tour.
I've been to your old store,
Yes.
and it was so beautiful, and I thought it was spacious. So talk about how this came about that you opened a new store, and what's the size and
Sure.
scale?
Well, I think I will backstep just to let people know if they haven't listened to the podcast from years ago.
Yeah,
But I actually got my start with a 1971 British ice cream truck that I turned into a mobile flower shop, and that was in 2012, kind of before anything cool like that was here in Charleston. It was
that's
definitely
crazy.
happening in California. So I
Yeah,
got one in Sunset Magazine, which is the person who inspired me to do that. And at the time, I'd already had a business, an eco-friendly wedding planning business, and we were doing flowers as well. So Roadside Blooms was literally by the
oh, I love
roadside.
that.
Um,
That's so great.
and
Wow.
I did quickly realize, though, and those out there that just do markets, because at that time, really the only place you could sell things were at farmers markets. You couldn't just roll up to anywhere you wanted to sell.
Sure.
It's kind of more common now. So you can't really make a good living if doing that, selling kind of nicer bouquets at a farmer's market, unless you are also growing the flowers. I think there's
Mhm.
probably a better
Mhm.
profit, but I was using all locally grown American grown flowers at that time. And then after my first child, I had an opportunity to take over someone's lease in
Mm.
my neighborhood. And so it was risky, but not too risky because I already needed the space. We were doing more weddings and needed to get out of my living room, my mom's living room,
Yeah.
everyone can feel that,
That
who's
production squeeze, yeah. So you knew that space was already built out too, so that was a what
Mhm.
you mean about low risk, like, you didn't have a lot of infrastructure investment required, taking over someone else's
Yes.
lease, wow.
Exactly, and it was small, and now it's a bookstore, which is great, but then we had the opportunity, to move into a larger space, which you saw, and that was about 1,500 square feet, and we were there for 5 years. It was a
Wow.
great location. We were next to another retail place, but
And it
in
just had a lot of character too, that
it
painted
did.
brick and, like, lots of plants, I loved it.
It's like it was an old, like, mechanics where like a gas station sort of
Oh,
thing,
cool,
been retrofitted. And then just down the street from there, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time when in this neighborhood we're in now, they were putting up the for sale sign for the land. And I looked at how much the land was, and I couldn't believe how relatively inexpensive it was because I'd already started looking for maybe warehouses to renovate or something like that. So Roadside had enough money to buy the land, but that was it. So
wow.
I needed to.
That's a big ballsy move, I
It
can't
was a
believe it.
big move. Yeah, I'm a risk taker. My husband is not a risk taker. He
Yeah,
has a
well
government 9 to 5 job. So I just live by the seat of my pants. I
well,
guess.
I love that. So you actually bought the land,
Hmm.
in a district where you knew it was, you know, retail friendly or whatever, right?
Yes,
Wow.
it's a neighborhood, and there is a restaurant here and a little coffee shop. And this was the last commercial space, and it's a mile from my house. So
Wow.
couldn't really go wrong with that. But then I knew I needed to find an investment partner of some sort because the bank wouldn't be like, sure, I'll lend you $2 million. You look like you can pay it back. Um,
For a flower shop.
yeah. And actually, when I met my investment partner, that was the first thing was I just thought that I was going to do retail and that would be it. I wasn't looking to do anything else. But in order to get an investment partner, he was like, well, we have to maximize what's on the land. So we actually have 4 apartments that we rent out above the
Oh
shop.
my god, girl, you're like a
Yeah,
mogul. I can't bel I
it's
didn't know
crazy.
this. I mean, I saw all the social media,
Hmm.
excitement about the new shop opening, but I didn't realize you developed the building.
Yes. So
Tony,
with
that's
my friend,
amazing.
who is like the best investment partner I could ask for. So he believed in what I was doing. We've known each other for a long time. He lives less than a mile away and had the capital to so the bank could, so we're 50-50 partners on the building. Roadside takes up the about 2,500 square feet on the bottom floor, so that's 1,000 square foot more,
Yeah.
which is great. And then the 4 apartments above, we still have one to rent. So if anyone wants to move to Charleston and live above the flower
I mean,
shop,
Charleston's hot. I bet you that won't
sure.
take very long.
Yeah, it
Wow, so this was a long process. When did you
was
actually
a
buy the
very
land?
in 2020.
Okay.
So
So you've been kind of planning for this for a
we've been
while.
planning for this for a while, and we had architectural drawings done, and then COVID happened, and the prices for everything skyrocketed. So the project was on hold for quite a while, and I
Mm,
wasn't actually sure if it was going to happen.
mm,
So, it took some time for things to, the prices never went down to our initial quote,
yeah. Yeah.
pre-COVID. So,
On things like
interesting.
construction and equipment and
Mhm.
or materials and labor probably, right?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it went up considerably. But I feel very lucky. I'm the first person in my family to have gone to college, and I don't come from any sort of wealth.
Yeah.
And honestly, I started Roadside Blooms with the $18,000 I had in my retirement account that I emptied from. Gosh, I don't know, what was I doing? I actually worked. Well, I taught at the College of Charleston for 11 years, but
Oh,
before that, or during that, I also took a break and worked for an environmental nonprofit doing renewable energy advocacy
mm.
work. So very tiny retirement, but emptied it. So I would say anyone who's out there that thinks they can't do it, I think you just need to take a risk that feels comfortable and find some people that you trust that believe in you and can work with you and want to see you grow for the long term, not just somebody who's in it just for a quick turnaround
Right, right.
investment.
Like this partner that you have. So now you're basically you are your own landlord as well.
We own the building together. He doesn't have any investment in Roadside Blooms itself, but Roadside does pay about market value for rent, just because that's how the finances have to
Yeah,
work. So you
yeah,
do have
it's
to
fair.
pay like fair market rent.
Here was the concept drawing for the building. So we would have retail downstairs and 4 apartments above. And this is the completed front of the building.
But even if Roadside doesn't work out, I do still have something to contribute to my retirement.
You have this amazing solid brick and mortar building that you can just rent to someone else. But
Mhm.
that's not gonna happen because you
Right.
are expanding. And,
Expand.
the new what has I mean, you've obviously had this vision for a while, Tony, to have a bigger space.
Mhm.
You alluded to the workshop. Is that because let's talk about all the facets. You've got
Yeah.
full service weddings,
Mhm.
retail, beautiful retail space with plants and,
Mhm.
gifts and item, and
With crystals, all kinds.
crystals and rocks, yeah.
Mhm.
And then you teach as well, and so there's a lot of activity going on in this space. Is it kind of, adaptable to all these things depending on what you have to do any given week?
Well, it's getting there. So we actually opened in July here in the shop in this location, and it's I before we moved into this, we rent a little warehouse space down the street, which is about the same size as this shop that has all of our vases and a large cooler, and we have actually a very large cooler here too.
Oh, great.
I still have a lease on that building, and hopefully in a year and a half, I'll be able to put it all under one roof. But I'll still need a storage space for all the vases and things like that. So we're still trying to make it work for what we do, but I think ideally, I would love to be under one roof and just pay one rent.
Sure.
Would be great, but for now, we're just still feeling the space out.
Well, so is the in all that inventory because you rent a lot of vases and, other things like stands and tabletop, accessories for weddings, and is that part of it?
Mhm. Yes, we have all the vessels, all the cylinders for candles, all the things,
I mean,
arbors, all.
it goes with your kinda green philosophy, and, I wanna just comment that you've been really active in what's Charleston's green and local movement, serving on various nonprofit boards, and you have been recognized as, 50 most progressive residents of Charleston in 2014. So you're walking the talk. This is an
Right.
ongoing. This is so embedded in your brand, how you do things. So how easy or hard is it to adhere to, you know, 100% American grown and locally grown blooms for either everyday flowers or for your wedding flowers? Because there is a good local flower farming community in Low Country, right?
There's a great community here. It's not everything's in growing right now,
Right.
although my friend that Brian from Yurihana, he just posted his beautiful early spring. I don't even know what this is now, but he has dahlias right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
He must be growing them under in a like a greenhouse setting, right?
yeah, like in a hoop house.
Wow. And you're
Which
like,
is
"I'll
wild.
take those."
Oh, yeah, I'm like, "Dibs." We've been friends for a very long time, so
That's so interesting, but
yeah.
that kinda goes back to this, Southern, flower conference, I can't think of what it
Yes.
was called, when I was able to come out, but the whole talk was on how to kind of trick the seasons when you're in a Southern climate.
Well, just to answer your question, it
Yeah.
is in the shop, it's not difficult because I don't budge very much. There have been times where our boxes didn't come and we have no flowers and have to run to the wholesaler, but
Mhm.
I would say that happens maybe once every other month. We might have to go grab a couple bundles for the shop.
Yeah.
On the wedding side, we average around 75% American and locally grown, and they're just some things, Not very many things I can't get American grown.
Mainly roses, probably, right?
Yeah, and I actually have great relationships with Pajarosa, our friend Paul,
Yeah.
and Chad at Euphoria. And so I get shipped direct. And I've been working with the local Mayash here who just opened not too long ago. And they actually, because I've always asked for that, they have an American grown section now.
Wow. Yeah.
And they also get from Euphoria and make a really good effort to make it a thing. They even have an American flag hanging by it, which is
But
sweet.
that is happening because you've invested a lot of time and effort in building those relationships. Not everybody can call direct to a California rose grower and get an order in, but they
Mhm.
trust you and they know that you're going to be a consistent customer.
Yes.
And and yeah, I love that. That's so great.
Yeah, there are a few other farms too that I know aren't accepting new wholesalers anymore, but I think because I've been consistent and those relationships mean a lot to me.
Mhm.
So when I talk to
Yeah.
Cam Floor and Paula Pajaros and Euphoria, like, we talk about family and all those things, and I love catching up with them. So it's important to have those relationships.
Yeah, you're grandmothered in, I guess, even though you're
Yeah,
young.
grandmother. Phew.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got to flowers because your environmental geology background still plays a big part in Roadside Blooms. And I find this so fascinating. And it's giving you a kind of a brand distinction to have this geology vibe going on in
Mhm.
the shop, right? How does that all come
Yes.
together?
So, without telling my entire life story, um,
I'll be sure to
I
share the other podcast, but I think you
oh,
touched on it a
sure.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was teaching at the College of Charleston as an adjunct. I have a master's degree in geology, and any adjunct here in the state, it's a great gig. It's wonderful. I miss teaching college students, but as an adjunct, you always have to have every adjunct pretty much has a side hustle,
Yeah.
and that side hustle became eco-friendly event planning, and then flowers. So, and after I was pregnant, I think, with my second child. It was time to not do roadside full time and teaching full time and being mom full time.
Oh my gosh.
So
Crazy.
I had to leave the college. Also got my student loans forgiven because I got my public service loan forgiveness. So that helped me transition. If not, I would have had to stay.
That's another way you invested in yourself. I love that.
It's
That's
true.
that's really great.
So I've been lucky in those ways. So in the shop, it's really people love crystals. I've ever always been drawn to rocks and crystals and fossils since I was little. And one thing that's really important to me is that people are understanding the science behind the fossils they might like to see here or the crystals they want to buy, because I feel like one of the biggest problems, and again goes with why it's so important to educate people about slow flowers, is the disconnection between our society and like where food and flowers and rocks and minerals come from.
Right.
And I feel like if people understand where things come from, you have such more of an appreciation for things. And
Mm,
so even for the plants that we sell in here, we've made efforts to have these little, because I'm a teacher, little
yeah.
educational plaques that have the natural history of the plant, where it's native to,
Oh, wow.
care instructions, and like fun facts about them. And then with the crystals, we're still working on this, but how they formed, where the most popular sites are for this crystal, and then the metaphysical. Because I
Yeah.
feel like there's some synergy there between where it formed and what it may be
Well, it's
useful
kind of
for.
like the geology analog to the language of flowers, but
Yes.
it's more science-based.
Hmm.
And do people, other than thinking crystals and rocks and fossils are beautiful, people really want to know, like, how will this create energy for me or give me some kind of physical response? Is that what you're talking about in terms of trying to break it down for people?
Yes, and I will be the first to admit out of my team, I am not the best with the metaphysical part. They'll call me to do the science, and then I'll call someone else to tell them what they may
The
think.
spiritual component, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also, I have a science mind and a very critical thinker, so it's hard for me to be like, yes, this is going to be great for bringing inner peace. And
Right.
I kind
But
of feel
people
for me
it
is whatever value you put into something, I feel is reflected back to you. You know,
mm,
so
yeah, that's
I've done,
good.
yeah, and I've done a deep dive on crystal meanings and healings, and what I find fascinating is across cultures.
Mm,
Sometimes, these cultures may not have been communicating, but they assign similar value and meaning to the same
mm,
types of
mhm.
crystals. So there must be something to that.
Yes, and it's just like it's a natural element that seems to be so compatible with plants and flowers in your
Mhm.
shop. I remember that when I came to visit your old shop, and you had beautiful. They kind of were integrated into all the displays, either if there was a color or maybe as you said, the story that goes with it. That you might just be buying a gift, and you pick it up and say that would be a cool gift to give someone. You don't have
Mhm.
to look for a lot of deeper meaning, or if you are looking for deeper meaning, there's that story too. So I love this. It's simpatico. I like it.
It is. Thank you. And then we carry a lot of different products. We shop mostly on fair.com, which you can shop by your values,
Yeah,
which
I've heard about this.
great.
It's a
Mhm.
wholesale site, right? For like
It's a
makers.
wholesale site for makers, and some are bigger, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say junk on there, but
Yeah,
it can be overwhelming.
you
So what
filter
I've
by your
done,
values. I see what you're saying.
filter
Yeah.
by your values, so I can find things that are not sold on Amazon, that are
Interesting.
small makers, that are Black owned, LGBTQ owned. You can kind of filter out whatever you're looking for. So it makes it easier. And then I've just found these, a lot of amazing brands that way. And also, as a small business, something they provide is payment terms. Like, I think it's 90 days or something like that until they charge your card. So that is super helpful, especially when in January, when retail's very slow and we don't have any weddings, we can still stock up for Valentine's Day and not
Wow.
um, have to pay that bill until after.
I've heard about that. That's really interesting. Both the way you can use ethos values to find vendors. I love that. And
Hmm.
then just that added payment, um, kind of for not the extended payment terms. Most people would do like net 30, right? And so,
Right. Hmm.
yeah, and Valentine's Day is in 6 weeks. So you've got to get product in the store.
Right. Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
well, we talked about the fact that you're going to create a new product line around minerals and all. Is that
Mhm.
something that I want to hear about that? But is that something that you would also become a wholesaler and sell through Fair to other
Yes.
retailers?
That is the goal. I've been trying to hustle and get that going for a while, but it's hard to find time in between wedding season. So this is my time. I'm very motivated to do that right now. But it's called Earthbound Alchemy, and it again bridges the science and the metaphysical so people understand both. And so we have had for the last couple years these little crystal kits we put together. That one is like about new beginnings. So these are the crystals in there. They're really good for that. And it's a local artist did all of the branding. It's really beautiful, and those kits do well in the shop. That's something I'd love to get on Fair. And then we just teamed up with the woman actually that is doing a workshop next week with the intention jars. She makes really amazing bath salts, and she puts crystals in them in these little baggies. And
Oh,
so she
wow.
approached me about trying to grow her business that way. And so we're she calls it white labeling, where she's making them, and we just gave her all of our labels and putting, like she made ours the scents that we like and put our stickers and things on it. And so she's making money and we make money, and it really works out because, of course, I'd love to do bath salts one day, but I'm never going to find the time to do
So
that.
this will be like a custom collection with the Roadside Blooms labeling.
Mhm.
Um,
But it's Earthbound Alchemy. So that's
oh,
another
okay.
way for, listeners to think of different revenue streams that you can pursue for your shop. Because I'm sure everyone has felt this, but through COVID, losing weddings, which are bread and butter, we've gotten really good at figuring out ways to earn income to keep the dream alive.
But you're so collaborative. I mean, even in like how you developed the building and now how you're working with vendors and with your customers, it's just it's so it's I don't know. I have to just say it's so female centric to have that attitude that, together we're going to create something better than individually. And I was commenting to you about your team members and how some of them have been with you for a long, long time. You really have created this reason for people to feel purpose, being
Mhm.
part of what Roadside Blooms is doing.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. I don't think it's always been conscious. It just kind
Mhm.
of the collective has really made something really beautiful. It's very rare that I catch myself saying my shop, or it feels weird to say that, or
Mhm. Mhm.
Roadside Blooms is my company, even though I'm the only owner. I very much feel it's the collective and it's the we and all their hearts and creative energy, and um, we're like family, and
Yeah.
it's really important to have that. I want them to come into work and feel fulfilled and proud and all that, even when we're
Yeah.
just washing buckets. So,
Right. Well, are people cross-trained? Like, does everybody know how to produce a wedding, but also take care of houseplants?
yeah, I'd say that everyone's cross trained enough to do our like delivery arrangements. So we
Mhm.
do 100% American grown flower deliveries daily, except for Sundays, and we're on DoorDash even. But so everyone knows how to make our arrangements for deliveries.
That's
Not
awesome.
everyone knows how to do bouquets or centerpieces at this point, but most people do.
I was gonna pop up, your website here on the screen so people can kinda see what your daily deliveries look like.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the flower delivery tab, and you've got these are representative because people
Yes.
have to understand it's basically designer's choice when you order from Roadside Blooms, right?
Yes. Yeah, the headings up there kind of talk about our philosophy, and so it's very clear that we keep our model very simple. You have 3 options: small, medium, large. Well, actually 4. There's an extra large one.
Is that this one right here? Oh, that's the showstopper?
Yeah, we have a showstopper somewhere. Yeah. And then you can only choose between neutral or colorful. You can say you like sunflowers, you might say you like tulips, and if we have them, great, we'll pop them in. But if not,
Yeah.
we're choosing the flowers, and
Yeah, I love that, neutral and colorful. That's smart. And
yeah, and I
then
tell you, it cuts down so much um, anxiety and worry. I know that so many florists, are kind of pigeonholed into offering certain things. And if you can't get it, or if it's off season, or I just can't imagine promising something
yeah,
on the line and having to deliver it in that way. And I think it
yeah,
stifles creativity too, because we have some farmers that will come here and say, I have like 2 bunches of this. Can you use it? And we absolutely can. So I think that's how we can support our local farms too. Whereas, if we needed 500 of something specific thing, we were not
right,
getting them from a local farmer.
right. Oh, that's really great. I wanted to just also, just look at some of your products too. So you've curated like this indulgent package. Oh, there's the Roadside Blooms mug you gave me. I love that.
Yeah, yay. We have a
And
new logo now, so I'll give you a new one when I see you in Banff.
okay. Then a plant gift set and then a terrarium kit. This is
Mhm.
back to kind of the kit thing that you're seeing as a potential,
Yes.
flowers for him, and then, a pamper kit and a couple plant kits. So,
Yeah.
and then you also have a thing that you're doing where, like, it's a plant club? Where is that? Plant
Yes.
Mate Club.
It's Plant Mate Club. This
Yeah.
is something Kelsey and I developed a number of years ago. So proud of it. We always would get people coming into the shop and looking and feeling guilty that they have killed a plant in the past. There's no judgment with that. We've all killed plants. So this is to help people get comfortable being either a new plant parents, or that they, want to become better. But basically, it's a 4-month club, and we meet once a month. And
Oh, here are the dates. Okay, I see
yeah,
that.
and you get a new plant, a new surprise plant every month we meet, and we teach you its natural history, how to plant it, propagate it. Um, and it comes with little surprise things as well. And again, it brings people together. And so a lot of people that maybe are new to the area have taken the workshop before and have made lasting friendships, which is always really fun.
Oh, how fun. That is so great. And do you usually is it kind
Yeah,
of a small group, like maybe a dozen people sort of
yeah,
thing? Or
yeah. It's usually we limit it, I think, to 12. Hmm.
but you also, I see, first of all, the price is basically covering the cost of the plants probably, but
Hmm.
you give them a shopping discount the night that the workshop,
Yes.
happens. So I guess, just to be pragmatic about it, when you do in-store events, people shop, right? And they're
Yes, we always offer a discount to someone who's coming to a workshop.
yeah, that's neat. That's
Mhm.
really
It
that's
generates, an extra few hundred bucks that evening, so it's definitely worth it.
there was something I saw on one of your blogs about your plant business and that you are work with local nurseries. So that sort of underscores your
Mhm,
sourcing values as well. You work with growers, wholesale growers that you can bring plants
mhm.
in from. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually just one we've been working with, a family-run business out of Florida, and he comes up here, like, every other week,
Wow.
and that's been great
Oh,
over
that's great. Another source you've developed.
Yes, those relationships are so important.
Wow.
Mhm,
So, you've got a lot cooking on your plate. Just talk briefly about what's happening with weddings, and you've done weddings forever, it seems, and
mhm.
they're just gorgeous. But how do you keep yourself excited and your team feeling fresh and new about weddings? Because every year it's kind of the grind in the but it
Right,
also pays the bills.
yes. Yeah, both. I would say that, it's so fascinating to me how my team doesn't they come so excited, and once you meet Kirsty and you've met Kelsey,
Yeah.
just have such great attitudes, and so does anyone who, like, freelances, and helps. We've even been told by planners, like, "Wow, your can-do, teamwork, collaborative, attitude is, like, so refreshing to have on
Mm.
site."
And
So this
backing up, the fact that you were a planner probably
Mhm.
really informs how people interact at a venue with other, with other vendors or with the planner.
Absolutely. We always, can read the room if they're behind on throwing linens. We know how to throw linens. We offer like, "Hey, we'll help you throw these linens, no big
Mm,
deal."
interesting.
And
Good.
yeah, and that helps. That goes a long way when, you can read the room and you see someone needs help or just something fell that has nothing to do with you, just clean it up. And the
Mhm.
planners see like, wow, okay, like they're a team player. We're all here for the same reason. They'll remember that for
Then
sure.
they'll refer you to other clients, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rough
absolutely.
what's the balance between the full service weddings and the à la carte weddings, which I know elopements and all is part of your mix, right?
Yeah. Well, we came up with that elopement offering through, I think her name is Little Bird Blooms, maybe.
Mm,
She's in
okay.
Australia or New Zealand, where this is a great thing for us for the shop side of the business is that anything under our minimum, I think our wedding minimum is just like $4,500
Okay.
for us to come and do anything
On
else.
site.
Yeah, on site because it takes a lot, and we may raise our minimum, I think, up a little bit from that this year.
Yeah.
But in order to not leave anyone out and to serve people, we do have, and you are welcome to pull it up on our site.
Yeah, I'll do
I
that.
know this woman offered this class, and we kind of adapted from that
Mhm.
to make
Mhm.
it our own. But basically, people can order things a la carte, where they can still get their roadside bloom signature style. And again, we kind of talk about how it's all American grown, and we pick the flowers.
Ah, so
And when
pretty.
you click on those, you basically again get, I think you get 4 options of color palettes, and with
Oh, wow.
so the only way this works for us is that it's very clear. We have an FAQ page where this is basically the you can pick your what you want, and then like if you want the large bouquet, small bouquet, bridesmaids bouquet, etc., and then the color palette, and that's it. So
Got
you
it.
can omit something, like if you're like, "Oh, I like the peaches in light blue, but I don't like blue." Like, "Okay, peaches in white," but we don't add
You
in
can't add in something, right?
anything, because once you
Yeah.
start customizing, it's not worth it anymore because there's no consultation. It's just like as if they were ordering a product online, and it keeps the transaction like nice and clean and short and sweet, and allows them to get something designer made and unique without us having to, go back and forth
Oh,
over, what flowers they like and this and that. We
oh,
don't do.
here's the FAQs. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, and it seems like this is also something that allows you to pre-plan for your orders, and maybe you have um, a full service wedding and an elopement on the same weekend. You're maybe they're the same palette, maybe they're not, but you're able to have predictability.
Mhm. Yes,
Um,
and, just being able to have, because we have the retail shop, we can handle last minute elopement orders too. If they just need a
yeah.
bouquet, we might be able to say, "Oh, I know you ordered this color palette, but this is what we have in. So if you want to switch to that color palette, we'll gladly do this." So finding ways to bring in, lots of different ways to bring in revenue, but also keep it simple. If it adds a lot of time and complexity, then it's no longer worth it.
Well, and also with that philosophy, you probably have very little waste. I mean,
Mhm.
you're using every stem if you can, because you've got everyday flowers, full service weddings, and then the elopements, and then probably just the walk-ins who want a few stems, right?
Oh, yes, we have a bouquet bar where we choose what we put out. Mondays are half off, our bouquet bar single stems.
Oh,
So
wow.
we don't repurpose event flowers in that way, but if we had like a bunch or two that we didn't use at all for the wedding, we will put those on the
And
bouquet.
that's why you're putting them at half price. I mean, that's kind of a cool
Yeah, and
gift.
usually we get our flowers on Tuesday, so even if we had them and if they were always shop flowers, they need to be discounted on Mondays.
Yeah, that's great. But I'm so impressed what you're doing, and I
Thank you.
I think it's just the fact that you talked about being so scrappy and taking risks and finding a way, even when you don't have inherited wealth, and you just built
Mhm.
this off of a retirement plan and funds, and just sweat equity. And I just
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. It's so inspiring, and
Yeah.
your store is making a difference in your community. You're making it, as you said, safe and welcoming for people to come in, and
Mhm.
um, we all need that. That's
Yeah.
that's that's leadership, and thank you for sharing that with us. I love it.
I do wanna mention one other thing that we
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
and that is, what we do with the flowers at the end of the events.
Oh, yes.
So many of our brides are not local. Charleston is like the number one wedding destination after Las Vegas, so that doesn't count. So most clients aren't local. They don't take their flowers. The staff, we always try to get rid of flowers at the end of the night for any servers, anybody. A
Oh,
lot of
neat.
people don't take them, but we take them all back to the studio, and then the next day, someone takes apart all the flowers and throws them in a bucket, and not reprocessing or anything. And
Right.
then we have a nonprofit that has been picking up flowers for the last almost 5 years, called A More Healing Kitchen, and they deliver healthy, all vegan, allergy free meals for people undergoing chemo or some sort of treatment. And so their volunteers pick up the flowers, redo the flowers, and then they get bouquets with their meals every week. And it's a great
Wow.
way to give back, whatever's left. If a more can't take all of them, for whatever reason, I take them to my kids' schools. We give them out, and then lastly, we compost. So
Yeah.
we pay for someone to come pick up the compost,
Wow.
which is an added cost, but we try to reduce our footprint in that way. And I'm very conscious that, we get flowers shipped from California, that there's a carbon footprint there that's pretty large. But we try in other ways to cut that down by doing what we can.
Well,
When
it's a lot of work. I mean, there's labor involved in what you just described, which you are
Mhm.
financing. So,
Yes, you
it,
don't
you're
get tax write-off for that, because I've asked my accountant 100 times about, I'm paying someone to take apart the arrangements and then giving them away, but apparently because they were already expensed.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway, but so we do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it's goodwill with a partner like Amore, and
Absolutely.
how special that they're willing to do that, and they have volunteers who will then make the bouquets. You're just
Yes.
providing the raw materials.
Hmm.
And I know that there's so many inquiries about that, but if the couple knows that the flowers will have a second life, it just makes them feel better about the investment that they're spending.
Definitely. And I found out from Amore that the couple can actually get a tax deduction through that. So I just
Oh,
passed through the paperwork, but I mean,
yeah.
if you find someone in your local area that can take them, that's a 501(c)(3), I think they probably can get a tax deduction.
Well, before we wrap up, I want you to just talk about the general attitude of wedding customers. Like, are
Yeah.
people coming to Roadside Blooms because of your values that you very clearly articulate on your website? I'm sure they love your aesthetic too, but like, who is the Roadside Blooms wedding customer? Can you
Yes.
give an avatar?
I think doing what I do, there's so much education. Like I care very deeply, but not everyone cares as much.
Yeah,
Right. So, and same with you.
yeah.
I mean, you are like a fairy godmother to me. And,
Oh, it's a
you've been
privilege.
really preaching this movement for so long. And you know how hard that hustle is to get people just to think twice about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mhm. So I feel like it's the icing on the cake is really what that is.
Hmm.
Uh,
Meaning,
Meaning like our design aesthetic draws them. I think if they meet us, they enjoy our energy. And then when we tell them about all of our sustainability initiatives and how we give back and all those things, I think not maybe that seals the deal sometimes because you want to work with people that match your
yeah,
ethos.
yeah.
And so yeah,
Well, I agree, and I think the values, maybe the reason people don't come to you and say, "I want all local," is just they just don't know that it's an option. And so when you present that as part of your proposal, and then they realize that this is like not only gorgeous, but I can feel good about spending money on flowers, which of course
mhm,
you and I know are essential, but other people think are frivolous.
totally.
It's all about the messaging. So I think you're right. It's so holistic because it isn't just one of those things. It's the whole package you offer people,
Mhm. And
and
I think in
and
the
and you're
shop
fun.
yeah, we're fun. We're a fun group for sure. And I think when people come in and see our bouquet bar, I think they're like, "Wow, I've never seen this flower. I've never seen that flower." We never have I think very rarely we have a red rose in the shop. For Valentine's, we don't do dozen roses ever. So, it's just that education about
Yeah,
that we're a non-traditional florist. We don't have traditional things and we always get told we have the most beautiful arrangements because we might sneak in a protea, which is not common, uh,
right.
or the straw flower, and just weird stuff we like to do.
Yeah. Well, that goes along with the scientist in you. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and I
Yes,
really look
great.
forward to getting this out into our community for people to just be inspired. But also, I hope everyone takes away some tips. You're very generous sharing your tips on how you keep this you know boat moving forward, and I think it's really a challenge in this climate. And you're relentless, and it's inspiring. So, thanks so much,
They call
Tony, for
me
the
my family calls me Tenacious Tony.
I have a banner on my wall that says "Figure it out." I should send it to you because you figure it all out.
I yeah, sometimes I just, yeah, feel like that's what everyone should do, just figure
I
it out.
agree. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Happy New
Thank
Year.
you. Take care. Bye.